Yo, people and patrons of the night, it is your boy, BD, and welcome back to the Horror Tavern. This is a one-stop shop for all pieces of horror media, so if you enjoy that type of content, please make sure to take a seat, grab a drink, and might as well hit that subscribe button and hit that like button if you enjoy this review by the end of the video. So, I am the host of the Horror Tavern, and today we're going to be taking a temporary break from the book reviews just to do a little bit of horror movie reviews again. And I just checked out the sequel to a very iconic, very famous horror movie slash creature feature slash animal attack film that I reviewed a little bit ago, and that was the Jaws franchise. And now I'm going to be covering in this video the second installment, Jaws 2, 1978. Now, Jaws 2, 1970, excuse me, coughing fits, they come randomly. Jaws 2, 1978 was declared by Universal, I believe, to be the most expensive film that they made up until this time point. I think it cost them $30 million. So it was a bigger scale one, more budget, but not necessarily better. It's bigger, but not better in my opinion. The first Jaws movie felt, well, I gave it an 8.4 out of 10, which is a very good, I think it's a very good horror movie slash creature feature, and I think it ages like wine. It gets better over time. The more horror media you experience, maybe the older you get, you might appreciate the first Jaws movie even more. But one of the things that I commend about it is that even though I didn't think it was great, it is a perfect package for what it is. You know, from start to finish, it flows very smoothly. The pacing is good. All the characters are great. The action is great. You get that mystery of not seeing the actual giant shark up until a certain point, and when it is revealed in its full body animatronic form, it's horrifying the way they do it. The attack scenes are good, and the giant climax on the boat out in the middle of the sea is very well done, very intense, and keeps you on the edge of your seat. It feels like an adventure mixed with horror, some parts of thriller, and that kind of stuff. The second movie, which I'll cover the plot and give my thoughts, feels like it tries to emulate the first movie in certain regards, but then it cuts corners that you start to notice. And that's why I would probably off-rip say that this is a pretty good movie. It's pretty good. It's not very good, I wouldn't even say it's a good movie. I would just say that it's pretty good, but there are some lackluster parts to it that I will highlight. So, the plot of this movie, Jaws 2, 1978, takes place back in the town of Amity. You got, obviously, Chief Brody. Chief Brody was the main character in the last movie. He's the chief officer of the town, and the mayor and the town are celebrating the opening of a new hotel. So you got this giant celebration going on. You got, like, beauty pageant people there cutting the ropes. You got balloons. You got streamers. You got the local high school band playing a musical. And obviously you see Chief Brody, his wife, and some other characters you recognize, as well as some new kids around the town, some new high schoolers slash teenagers who may get involved later on in the movie. And what ends up happening is that you get the idea that there's another shark attack because there's some scuba divers who are exploring the wreckage of the Orca, which, for those of you who don't remember, the Orca was the boat that the fishermen, Chief Brody, and I believe Mr. Hooper, the shark biologist, were riding on in the climax of the last movie. So that got sunken, obviously, by the giant shark, and obviously the fisherman was killed, so they're exploring the wreckage, and then they get attacked by an unknown force, which you assume is another shark attack that happens, and they're found dead. And what ends up happening is that as the people are all adjusting, you get the idea that Chief Brody is a celebrated officer. He's sort of calmed down. He's sort of trying to enjoy the summer, the family life. Everybody is in a sense of calm. But now things are sparking back up, and it's getting a little bit more intense because you get this very iconic, and this is probably my favorite scene in the entire movie, of where there's a female skier who's water skiing out there with a person on a boat dragging her, and then she ends up getting attacked by this new shark, this new giant shark that attacks her, and then it attacks the boat, and the woman on the boat starts freaking out trying to get rid of it, and she ends up pouring gasoline a little bit onto the shark and a little bit onto the boat. It ends up catching on fire, and then the shark's face, half of its face, lights on fire, and then the boat explodes, but the shark manages to get away while she's dead. So Chief Brody comes in, he checks it out, and he starts getting a little bit excuse me, suspicious. He starts thinking that this might have been a shark attack. Maybe there's another new shark culprit. He feels a little bit eerie about all these attacks and disappearances that have been going on. And as the story continues, he starts more and more to believe that it's a giant new shark, a new great white shark that's coming, because there's a orca, a dead orca that shows up washing up on the beach, and it's got these huge giant bite marks out of it that resemble shark bites. He gets a biologist in there to check it out. Not Hooper. Matt Hooper doesn't show up, but it's another side character biologist, and she thinks that it may be a shark, and that's all he really needs is his own confirmation. So he starts getting paranoid, he starts getting freaked out, and at one point when he's on the beach, he basically has a false alarm where he thinks that the great white shark is out there. He screams, and he loaded up, I guess, his gun with like cyanide bullets or something and started firing it. Turns out it's just like a school of bluegill fish, so he looks like an ass in front of all the people, and next thing you know, he ends up getting kicked off the police force because they think that he's being too much, and he's getting way too obsessed about this potential shark. Meanwhile, the mayor and all the business people and all the higher-ups in this town that are running it basically think, nah, you're crazy, man. There's no evidence. There's no real reason to think of it as a threat, which is the same shit that they were doing in the previous movie, so that's why it feels like it's emulating that. And then, of course, you get more shark attacks, and you get into a dangerous situation where now he's not Chief Brody. So Brody's two sons, his oldest son, decides to go out into the water to go, I think, like sailboating with his friends, because they kind of think to him like, oh, are you really gonna let your dad ground you just because he's paranoid? And he's like, nah, I'm my own man, I can do whatever I want to do. And there's a girl that he likes that he wants to impress, so he heads out there. But his little brother tags along because his little brother says, you know, if you don't, I want to go out there, and if you don't take me, I'm gonna snitch on you to dad, which is typical brother shit. So they head out there, and of course they end up becoming the targets of this potential shark attack, and they get stranded out there. And next thing you know, Brody has to get out there and save the day, despite him not being a police officer anymore, because he's got that moral duty, that moral justice, and he has to, of course, protect his beloved family. That's basically the plot of the movie without me giving too much away, and I cut out some stuff. I'm not going to talk about the climax or ending. You can watch it and find out. So this movie, again, feels like it's trying to emulate the first film. The whole idea of these coughing fits, man, they come out of nowhere, just like that shark dorsal fin in the ocean. Basically, the higher-ups, the business people, the mayor are doing the same shit they did in the first movie. They don't believe them. They try to, you know, throw it off. Even though we know that Chief Brody is right, they decide, you know, not to take it seriously. And to be fair, there is some more evidence behind this movie because, you know, Chief Brody freaked out and he thought that a school of bluegill was the shark, and he fired off gunshots, and people thought that he was crazy. He looked like an ass, so that's there. But the shark attacks in the movie, the not believing Chief Brody, the Chief Brody having to take matters into his own hands, that all feels like the same formula from the first movie. But the reason why this movie feels underwhelming in certain parts is I noticed that with the shark attack scenes, there's more jump cuts in this movie, I feel, compared to the first one. I remember the first one having more smooth attack scenes with the shark. The first time it's revealed in the water, the animatronic, you see it smoothly attack that one guy. And you feel like you see more smooth screen time with the shark, as opposed to in this film, there's a lot of, I guess, underwater shots. There's a lot more jump cut scenes. You don't really get as much focused on shark action with the animatronic than you would wish, especially considering the fact that, again, this movie costs more money to make than the previous one. So it is bigger in budget, bigger in production, but again, it's not better because it's not executing the same type of shots and the same type of sequences that the first film had. Another thing is, you know, you have to make a second movie, so you have to make a sequel. They don't really put any time or effort into trying to understand or try to make the viewer understand why there's a second shark attacking Amity. There's like a hint that maybe sharks might attack at the same type of places, but it's not really explored. There's no real science behind it. There's no real exploration. In the first movie, Matt Hooper was there to basically explain and piece together all the different mysteries of these shark attacks and try to hint why there might be something happening. And you get the idea that towards the climax that it's irregular behavior. This shark is more than meets the eye. And even if you read the novel, in the novel, when they're trying to figure out the shark attacks and the mystery, by the climax, you get this I guess, bigger sense that the shark is like a otherworldly presence. Like, there's hints that when they look at the shark, I remember there's a scene from the book where I guess Brody looks at the shark and he sees like its face, its head out of the water, just staring at it with that, you know, classic shark mouth grin. And he says, you know, it's this 6 foot by 4 giant head sticking out of the water, looking at you with these black, beady, lifeless eyes and this giant grin. It looks like you're looking at the face of the devil. They try to hype up the shark as to being something more. In this film, there's no real explanation as to why the shark does what it does. There's not even really a hint of trying to entertain the idea that it could be more. It's just like, it's just there. It just exists. It just showed up just for the sake of making a sequel. So that's all right. You can get past that, but it feels a little lazy in that regard. All the characters in the movie are great. I think that's probably the strongest part of this movie. I like all of the characters. I love Chief Brody as usual. The other teenagers do a good job playing their role. Of course, the mayor, I like seeing him. He always does a good job. So yeah, the characters are good, but the plot sort of just feels like a rehash of the first movie. It feels lazy in some of the execution. And the climax scene, there's a couple cool shots in terms of the attack scenes, but again, it's jump cuts. It doesn't really feel that much impact or weight as the first movie. But then you get this ending as to how they defeat the shark. And it's iconic, but it's stupid as fuck. I'm not gonna lie. It's an iconic scene, but it's dumb as fuck. It makes no sense. Having gasoline on the face of the shark and burning it on some Scarface shit, that was a little overboard, but I was like, all right, you got gasoline, you got fire, it makes sense. The ending to this movie, in terms of beating the shark, doesn't hide any fact that it's an animatronic. It's like the most blatant, this is an animatronic, not a shark. They just gave up on all types of believability and reality. And then the actual ending of the movie is just pretty much like a, like it's the end of the day. Like, we did it, and then it cuts. Like, it's just like, we saved the day, and then it finishes. And it's like, okay, that also felt a little lazy. So there's some shortcuts taken in this movie that doesn't make it feel as fleshed out as one good, well-done, perfect package as the first movie. And I'm going to keep referencing the first movie just for the fact that it feels like a rehash, but it feels like a weaker rehash. But in terms of sequels, it's a decent sequel. I still suggest you watch Jaws 2. It's still a pretty good movie. I think you'll have some fun parts to it. If you're really a big fan of the first movie, I think you'd still get enjoyment out of here. I am a fan of the first movie. I'm not the biggest fan, like as other people might be, which is fine. You guys can love it, obviously, as much as you want to. But I still am a fan of the first movie, so this one just sort of felt eh. But I think that if you're like a super fan, you might like some more stuff about it. And if you put some disbelief at the door regarding certain scenes, you might think it's in some ways more iconic. But in my opinion, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's a pretty good movie. And yeah, I still recommend you check it out. That's all I got for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this horror movie review. Hopefully I can review the rest of the Jaws movies by the end of the summer. I'll probably try to get to that. I have so many fucking horror movies that I got to review, but I also got a lot of book stuff. I'm trying to diversify it up. That's why I try to take a break from the 3 books, just so you guys get a little bit of a breather in terms of new content. So I hope you guys are liking it. Again, if you do, hit that subscribe button down below and hit that like button. It's a free way to support me. Lets me know you guys like the content, pushes it out there into the algorithm. So that way, if you guys can experience it, learn about new stuff, or if you've seen this media before, you feel like you're talking to a friend about it. And yeah, stay tuned for more stuff to come during the summer, and deuces. I also forgot to mention the tagline of the movie is pretty iconic. Just when you thought it was safe to get back into the water. I think that's been parodied a bunch of times. So yeah, stay out of the fucking ocean, people. That shit is scary. And these movies, they should let you know that shit.